Welcome to this explainer. Okay, we're jumping right in today because we are going to completely transform how you view the concepts of calling, volunteering, and stepping up to the plate. And we're going to do this by unpacking a fascinating, almost hidden grammatical mystery found in the ancient text of Isaiah. Listen, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by the idea of being called to do something, or if you just naturally shrink back when someone asks for a volunteer, you're really going to want to pay close attention today. Okay, let's dive into this. Consider one of the most famous verses in historical literature, Isaiah 6:8. But I want you to look closely at the phrasing here. God asks, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Now, did you catch that? There is a bizarre grammatical anomaly hiding right there in plain sight. We are talking about a singular, monotheistic God, right? Yet the text uses the plural word us. I mean, why wouldn't God simply say, "Who will go for me"?
Historically, theologians have resolved this mystery in a couple of different ways. A lot of folks point to the concept of the Trinity, God as three persons, making the plural us perfectly natural. Others point to what linguists call the majestic plural. Think of ancient kings or even former presidents who would use we instead of I to denote absolute sovereignty and royal authority. Now, while this plural form pops up in the early Genesis creation and Babel stories, it is incredibly rare by the time we get to the book of Isaiah, which was written much later. Its sudden reappearance here is highly, highly intentional. But what's really fascinating is the deeper, more profound meaning behind this grammatical choice. God isn't just, speaking formally here. By saying us, God is literally putting himself on the roster. The question isn't, who will go out there all alone? It actually translates closer to who will go with us. It's a massive declaration that the one doing the sending is also the very one who will be walking right alongside you.
And this brilliantly illustrates a huge paradigm shift. If you trace the narrative of ancient texts, earlier questions from God were often about finding broken, hiding people, like asking Adam, "Where are you?" Those were rescue missions for failing individuals. But this question in Isaiah, totally different ballgame. It's not about finding someone who is lost. It's this incredibly unique, empowering invitation seeking a coworker and a partner for a shared mission. Section 1, the volunteer dilemma. Why we look down. I think we all know how the idea of partnership or calling usually plays out in reality. Imagine you're in a meeting, a community gathering, or even a church service. Everything is going smoothly until the leader suddenly pauses, looks at the crowd, and asks, "So, who will volunteer to take on this task?" We all know exactly what happens next. Dead silence. Human instinct kicks into overdrive. We immediately stare at the floor. We suddenly, desperately need to check our phones. We pretend to write something incredibly important down. If there's a printed bulletin, we are suddenly reading it with the intensity of a scholar decoding ancient hieroglyphs. Why do we do this? Because we want to avoid eye contact at all costs. We instantly feel the heavy, crushing burden of duty or just the creeping fear of our own inadequacy. We think, "I can't do this. Surely someone else is better." Yet, in stark contrast to our modern awkward avoidance, listen to Isaiah's response. "Here am I. Send me." He didn't avoid eye contact. He didn't pretend to read a scroll. The moment the question was asked, his hand shot up immediately and enthusiastically. So the burning question is, why? Was the guy just inherently braver or more faithful than the rest of us? Section 2, the hidden backstory, Isaiah's three-stage arc. Let's move to and see how this builds. Because Isaiah wasn't acting out of blind courage or some superhuman level of faith. He was actually prepped for this exact moment by a profound three-stage arc that forms the backbone of his transformation: encounter, collapse, and purification. If we just read verse 8, we completely miss the entire backstory of verses 1 through 7 that made his immediate volunteering possible. These three sequential steps completely rewire how Isaiah views himself, and more importantly, how he views the invitation to serve. So, step 1 is encounter. In the text, Isaiah physically sees God sitting on a highly exalted throne, surrounded by shaking foundations and smoke, the whole shebang. It is visceral. True motivation and calling never start with just reading about something in a book or hearing secondhand knowledge. It always starts with a direct, undeniable, face-to-face encounter. To really grasp the power of this, consider this incredible story of a student defending a PhD dissertation. The skeptical judges criticized the student's methodology, claiming the famous scholar they cited had never actually written those ideas in his books. But the student calmly pulled out a signed copy of the book and explained that right before the scholar passed away, they had actually shared a private dinner together.
The scholar had shared his personal, unwritten beliefs directly with the student. Boom, the judges couldn't argue. Why? Because the direct personal encounter created an undeniable authority that secondhand knowledge simply cannot touch. That is exactly what Isaiah experienced.
But here's the thing. A true encounter with perfection always leads to step 2, which is collapse. Seeing this sheer perfection made Isaiah act like a mirror, reflecting his own deep flaws. He literally cries out, "Woe to me, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips." Keep in mind, Isaiah was a highly educated elite. He probably had access to the royal courts. His greatest tool, his absolute pride and joy, was his speech, his lips. Yet in the light of absolute perfection, his greatest strength suddenly felt completely broken and inadequate. He collapsed under the weight of his own imperfection. But a collapse is never the end of the story, right? It's the prerequisite for step 3, purification. While Isaiah is sitting there in the absolute ruins of his own self-esteem, an angel flies down, takes a burning coal from the altar, and touches it directly to Isaiah's lips. The angel unilaterally declares that his guilt is taken away and his sin is atoned for. So, the crucial point is the anatomy of this grace. Isaiah never once asked to be cleansed. He didn't perform some elaborate ritual to earn it. He literally only confessed his brokenness. It was God who took the initiative. God provided the angel, God provided the burning coal, and God made the unilateral declaration of forgiveness. This was entirely unprompted, unearned grace poured out on someone who had just admitted they had absolutely nothing to offer. Section 3, the true invitation, reframing the call. When we bring this incredible 3-step narrative arc together, it completely changes the context of what happens next. Experiencing this overwhelming, unprompted grace is the exact primer for God finally asking for a volunteer. It reframes the entire concept of the call, which brings us to the most pivotal question of this explainer. When God says, "Who will go for us?" is it a demand or an invitation? Without the backstory, sure, it sounds like a heavy demand for free labor from an unqualified person. But with the backstory, we realize God isn't asking an unequipped person to just figure it out on their own. He has already prepared, healed, and equipped the volunteer. It's not a boss handing down a stressful assignment. It's a healer inviting you on a shared journey. And that is exactly why Isaiah didn't pretend to read the bulletin. His reaction wasn't born out of burdensome duty. It was overwhelming gratitude. Think about it. When someone saves you, heals you, and equips you, without you ever having to earn it, you don't just sit on your hands when they ask for a partner. You raise your hand because you were so flooded with gratitude that you literally cannot sit still. Send me is just the natural reflex of a grateful heart. So, how does this ancient text connect directly to your life right now? While answering the call doesn't mean you have to quit your job and change the entire world overnight. True partnership starts with small, really practical acts of daily gratitude. It means greeting a stranger warmly. It means helping someone carry a dish when you see they're overwhelmed, offering a word of comfort, or simply praying for someone in need. These aren't heavy burdens, guys. They are joyful, small responses to the grace that you've already been shown. We've seen today that the call to serve is not a demand for perfection. It's an invitation to partnership. That little grammatical mystery of the word us proves that you are absolutely never being sent out alone. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to carry with you. Knowing that the one sending you is the very same one walking with you, how will you answer the invitation today?